Welcome to Nostalgia Pilots, a mobile fighter G Gundam podcast that just paid for your drink. I'm Hugh.
I'm Jurd.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Spence.
And we're here to talk about G Gundam Episode 4, Challenge, the Red Rose Knight.
Is that the longest title so far, I think?
It's very 90s, and then it's like an action word and then a description of it.
Mm-hmm. So, this episode does not take long to jump into the action. Because right after we get the weird faking your one eye announcer dude giving the same setup that he gave the last two episodes.
We're going to keep getting.
And we're going to keep getting, probably. We jump right in, and we're in Neo-France. And we have this very Napoleonic Zaku versus another Zaku that looks like a really bad recreation of Continental soldiers in robot form.
Yeah, I was wondering
that's what it was.
That other guy.
But I looked it up, and that is the Arachno Gundam of Neo-Cuban. So that's actually supposed to be a Castro hat.
Okay, the hat makes way more sense. The hat makes way more sense. The crab claws coming out make way more sense, because I thought it was it wanted to be a Cancer but on land.
See, I thought it was like a scorpion. I didn't know it was supposed to be like a spider.
I thought it was a scorpion.
Not a spider.
Too.
It's a spider crab.
Oh, right.
It's a spider crab.
I thought that did have very much like prototype Leo vibes to it.
Yeah. And they're facing off, and there's a very major difference between these two. One of them is inside of his Gundam, and one is not. Guess which one is stronger?
He is literally harnessing every ounce of Captain Harlock he can muster.
Oh no, he's like totally doing the Gigantor thing where he stands on the shoulder.
And it's
Shout out to Gigantor.
It's lovely. It's fantastic. And we get to go up and we see this giant air balloon Zeppelin hybrid with the
I was
French
all
flag.
for that. Yeah, I was all for the blimp thing. It was beautiful.
And a young lady who's watching with those opera glasses, and someone's saying, "Miss Marie-Louise, you must come inside." And she says, "No, I will watch my George, my fighter, my knight." And I'm like, oh God, no.
My thing though is like, why would she have to come inside when they're nowhere near the action, for one? And two, why are you watching from a blimp in the first place? Like, who decided they needed blimp box seats to watch this fight? Like, when everyone else seems to be able to watch this thing on television.
Because the technology still does not exist to create the smell and the actual tension of threat of debris coming towards your face.
Are you
also? I think that like they have recreated the French aristocracy, and they're going to French aristocracy it up, no matter how sensible or not that sounds.
They've left the democratic nation behind and gone back to their aristocracy, because this little chick is a princess, and she fully believes she's a princess.
I think you just
We'll get into that in a minute.
I think you just gave the same reasons people give for watching NASCAR live.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, a lot of people, the reason they want to sit right next to it is so that if somebody crashes, they can be like, "Oh, I nearly died at this race, but it was so cool."
Can we...
Especially when, like, later in the episode, we do get Neo-France's Gundam's, like, special attack, which is, like, a huge field of energy that would be highly dangerous. Like, that airship shouldn't be there. It's going to explode.
But no. We got to go back, because there is a thing called Chekhov's gun. But I would like to talk about Chekhov's limp Eiffel Tower.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
we haven't even seen it yet.
Yes, you have. They show it in like
in the opening shot.
Did they?
There's some amazing use of that Eiffel Tower over the course of the episode. In fact, when we get to my favorite moment, it's heavily involved.
It's true. And so I did not get somebody popping out with the Eiffel Tower as a party hat, unfortunately.
But he does.
However, We do get Domon being a total party crasher.
With a
Yeah,
victory.
he gate crashes.
He
just pops out of the set and goes, "You're gonna fight me now."
Yeah, for an episode that literally starts with like no nonsense, no travel sequence, no Bruce Banner wanders into town and whatever moment. It was just here's a fight, and then you like that fight? No, I got another fight in your fight for you. I was quite
You
pleased
can
with
both
that.
fight me.
I love how what's really funny is George is trying to act like he cares that he's fighting this spider crab, but really they both know that he's no match for George
Right.
or Domon. Like,
He's like, I shouldn't have done this, but since we're here, let's
Yeah,
go.
That's a
I'm not
funny
bothering
argument.
to get in. I'm just going to use the voice commands.
Siri, kill him. It's a funny choice though, because he's fighting the Cuban Gundam, and then he's like, well, but Domon, you barbarian, I'm not going to even bother fighting you.
Well, because he's not following any of the regulations of the organization, and that is something. He's a rules lawyer essentially,
Right.
because he's literally quoting the rule book by section, and I'm like,
Like, yeah, Domon's like, we all said the words, it's fine, you can fight me, it's cool.
and like what I do love
He's
though
like, no, it's not.
is we actually get to see Domon being reprimanded for 2.5 seconds by the Zex surrogate.
Oh yeah, like by his bosses in presumably the Neo-Japanese self-defense force.
And that one guy is wearing that.
Oh yeah, and one guy's got like a mask and a super sinister expression, and I'm like, that's not gonna come back.
did anybody else notice that mask was very similar to the Cuban fighter's mask?
that
Yeah.
was- Although I will say the Cuban fighter, if you didn't tell me he was a Cuban fighter, I was gonna think that they watched a lot of Mortal Kombat and they just wanted to draw a dark skinned Kano. Because he's like, it's almost like he's got like a burn or like something
Is
on
it-
his face. Like,
Kano's supposed to be darker skinned than he is in the stupid movie.
yeah, he's what, New Zealand? He's a New Zealander, I think he is.
Yeah, I think so.
So George, I immediately really like, because he's just like, no, you don't get to jump into this official fight and try to fight me and my opponent. That's not cool. Those are not the rules, and I'm not going to play into your game. Bye. Peace out. You know, I'm not getting paid for this.
Yeah, like I don't have to fight you, and you jumped the line and stole my kill.
Although
so I'm not going to. Good day.
I love Domon's answer though, is I got the battle signal first. And like even Domon's bosses are like, you really expect us to believe that?
Yeah.
He's like, I got the battle signal first.
And then he puts a beer bottle through the TV or something?
Yeah.
Like I didn't.
Yeah. And somehow it still works.
Back before LCD screens, you could crack a CRT and it'd be okay.
Okay, but we have to talk about that though, because they take some damage in the Neo-Japan Gundam takes some damage in the fight. So they've got like Gundam Fighter Airbnb or something going on, where they've got this massive factory warehouse situation with repair work going on.
And from the establishing shot, they're like inside the Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah.
Rain gets to show off some more of her gear and her know-how, which I love.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's fixing the hole that one of these do it. Do it.
Rose bits. Like he's so unenthusiastic. Like there's no.
It was a real like tuxedo mask move the way he threw it too.
Yeah. So she's fixing the damage, because apparently what it did from watching it, it looks like it hit the circuitry in a specific way that it immobilized one of his arms. So she has this like VR set with some latex gloves that like allow her to manipulate the tools, which I thought was really cool.
It looked like to me like she was trying to reprogram something from Ghost in the Shell. Like she was literally, because it was like a visor and it had those cables, and she reuses it later in a great scene. And so I'm just like, man, like they have this every so often, they show these crazy amounts of technology, but then they still have tube TVs. Like I just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
you didn't spring for that hologram.
yeah, you didn't spring with a flat screen, huh? Had to save cash for the.
Although I do like that during that scene, like, Rain takes off the goggles and then slaps herself in the face with the glove.
Yes. I liked that little bit of humanity there. And then, I also like that they show her putting it into her lapel pocket, in her breast pocket, so that it makes sense later on why they're doing that. Because I love continuity. And when they do continuity correctly, it makes me excited.
How about that gravity-defying haircut from George, by the way?
Yes.
It's the greatest.
I like George.
It's a Ruby Rod style hairstyle, but for straight hair.
Oh my gosh, it's like the greatest pompadour. He looks like he's wearing a Gatchaman helmet.
Well, yeah, it's like Troa's hair, but like horizontal, and it goes further.
But yeah, man, like Hugh, I think you had it best when you called this young little princess cosplaying a Pokemon trainer. Because
because the next scene we go to is this ball that is happening, and this princess is surrounded by older people who are like just fawning attention all over her. Meanwhile, George steps out onto the balcony, and we get our balcony scene of this series. But like, it pans out, and he's just looking up at the Rose Gundam, which is just chilling next to the party, like the Rose Gundam was his +1.
And it
is dapperly dressed. It is dapperly dressed.
It has a cape and everything.
It does.
Yes, I do like the design of the Rose Gundam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it does have its laser sword that actually does have a blade, but it also has, like, instead of having a shield, it has a full shoulder cape, and then that shoulder cape like pops up, and that's where the launch tubes for the rose bits are. So it's very, like, well designed.
Yeah, so far out of all of the mobile suits we've seen, I think it's the one with the best design. Like, because Chibbity Crockett's is just outlandish and makes no sense because he puts boxing gloves on top of boxing gloves, and the Dragon Gundam is a roller coaster ride waiting to happen.
Yeah, like Dragon Gundam and Maxter are a little too busy in like what their suit does. Like they're both a little overstuffed with weapons. Rose Gundam like strikes a nice balance. It's very elegant.
And the one thing is pretty simple. Like he just looks kind of like a Gundam. Like
the one thing
with
is
the tricorn hat.
Well, yeah. In the frenetic fight scenes, though, I do find that the Neo-Japan and Neo-France fighters the color scheme is similar enough that it can be difficult, especially when they're both sword fighting or something, to tell them apart.
So we get a scene with George on the balcony, and he's looking up at his Gundam, and Miss Marie Louise pops out to like bask in his praise of her, and he just like he treats her like a child. He's like, "Well, I'm very happy with my Gundam. I'm very happy about our country. We have a long and glorious history, and we can sort of gain more prestige." And like he is very into being a knight.
Yes.
This is unacceptable to her.
So I'm gonna admit, like, they're obviously not 1-to-1 comparisons, but I did kind of feel like in this sequence, and especially with the imagery of the party, the dress, the sort of style, that imperial style of dress, this felt so proto Treize and Relena to me in so many ways. Like everyone fawning over her at the party. "Oh, you're so pretty, princess. Aren't you so wonderful?"
Well, yeah.
And then
Relena, that's very similar to Relena's dress she had in that one scene where it was the pink with the long gloves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the Neo-France stuff in this episode informs some of the design choices for Oz, like very strongly. I do agree there.
I will say, George, take a hint, Hoss.
I don't think it's George that needs to take a hint.
Yeah.
I really think this is an instance where a girl has to be willing to hear no.
But I think George needs to also be like, where are your parents? Where's the king and the queen to keep you away?
Where's your chaperone?
Yeah, where is your valet?
Yeah,
where is he gone?
Where's your Alfred? Because Relina had an Alfred.
She does have an Alfred. Like there is.
He doesn't get a name though.
He doesn't get a name this episode. I think he does later. Like he pops back up.
Oh man!
But he does burst into her room later that night and discover that she is kidnapped.
That's it.
So Clark Kent's disguise is to be able to put on those sunglasses and disappear. This girl has put on an Ash Ketchum cap and she's gone. No one can even tell who she is.
Okay, but she has this creepy thing as she's plotting this. So she's upset that he's all such a patriot for his country and wants to fight for his country, and he doesn't pay any attention to me, and I'm just going to draw his initial on my wait a minute. If I draw a ransom note in lipstick on my mirror and I wreck my room, I guess I can get him to come and find me because I'm a princess and he's a knight, and that's what they do.
She's one crush away from being a single white female. Like she's literally one crush away from being single white female. Like
I do like that they're playing with the trope though, like that it's the reverse. The knight is like, no, you're fine. No, you're fine. The princess is like, rescue me, save me.
You're supposed
to love me,
the princess. Although George, I feel, is in love with his robot.
Yeah,
that's okay and valid because that is mutual.
Okay, so this brings up one of my problematic scenes. What's with that dude? Okay, I know we kind of already touched on it, but the Cuban fighter, basically it looks like a black dude. And this is the second time Domon's come up and sucker punched a black man who's not even looking.
He really has.
I feel really uncomfortable with that fact.
So what happens is the princess goes to a cafe and gets a cup of coffee.
And the only people to notice that their country's princess is in this cafe is the Cuban,
is like the Cuban hit squad.
And they find the perfect inn because the waiter goes, "You have to pay for that, miss," and she goes, "Well."
I do like that at least in the sub or in the original Japanese, the cost of the coffee is 17 Neo francs.
Yep.
So their money is also Neo, which is good.
Yeah.
And I looked that up, and that's about $3.50 US in 1994 money. So that's a decent thing for a cup of coffee in Paris.
What the Cuban guy? So the Cuban guy and his gang have an inn now, because they're like, I'll pay for it. They pay for it with 100 franc bill, and I'm like, that's okay. So you're tipping the guy to leave you alone.
Exactly.
That's not problematic with this teenager.
Okay, to the waiter's credit, he doesn't go anywhere. He's there for the whole scene. Like he's there for the whole fight.
But he's still taking that tip. That $97 tip.
So they're like, hey, you wanted to be kidnapped? We're gonna kidnap you. And then Domon shows up and pops him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere. Just he's like a racist Batman.
I do want to say before we go past it, I did look this up as well. The Neo-Cuban pilot, his name is Frank Gastro with a G.
Oh wow, okay.
Which is a little on the nose. But also, I want to point out that he is dressed in a pair of purple overalls.
What's wrong with purple overalls?
Nothing. I think it's a brilliant sartorial choice on his part that I wouldn't have expected from a giant hulking Cuban cyborg. But go off on him. Like if he wants to dress like Rei Hino, go for your bad self.
Oh my god! Like it's just like.
He's just trying to be happy, and he can't be happy all the time because he's a fighter, so he wears his happy in his clothes. Yeah, okay? Why you gotta hate on his clothes?
These four, Cuban gangsters have, these four separate amazing looks. There's like a dude in like a red serape and a mask. There's a guy with like a rebreather over his head with like two-tone hair.
They're literally like what would happen if Mad Max Fury Road met a K-pop band.
Yeah, they are very K-pop.
It just feels like they didn't have any reference books for what was Cuba. Like they were like, I know the hat. That's about it. Let's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the design team's like, well, what should they be wearing? The clothes? Okay.
Now, I will say this though. Like, what do you expect to happen? Like, as a princess who roams out on the street alone, and a waiter in your own a cafe in your own country doesn't recognize that you are their princess. Like, what?
She's wearing a big thing on her like lapel that's like a shield crest.
I thought it was a name tag that just said, "Hi, my name is Earl," to go along with her disguise. Like
I think that might be a sort of thing that's like sort of like the I'm a princess. Don't mess with me.
You don't. I'm just a regular princess. Like just
your regular, average, everyday princess.
But no, like, I mean, to be fair, like, if you want to be kidnapped and actually have George come save you, like, that'd be the one to do it. Because at this point, you're just if he fights Domon, it's a risk that he might lose. It's obvious that he can defeat the Cuban Gundam guy. Like, so, like, yeah. I would say, use those guys to your advantage. But instead, racist Batman cold cocks this guy in the head. Like, has Domon actually had a fair fight? Like in person, or has he just jumped out of nowhere with kicks and punches?
Other than the time they tried to shoot him and he managed to
catch bullets.
Bullets. Everything after that has just been done in by dragon puppets. So, although we do get a bit of reason when so the princess manages to sort of half convince Domon to kidnap her, and they go back to the Airbnb, and Rain's like, "Are you kidding me? This is a regulated match. Like, you don't need to do this. We don't need crimes."
Yeah, Rain is the voice of reason here. And she's like, no, we are not kidnapping a princess.
Yeah, we're not causing a diplomatic
and we also have orders from our superiors who are holding your dad hostage, by the way. Like, we are trying to resolve a kidnapping, not cause more of them. Like to go to Neo-Russia and fight the Bolt Gundam, because they're waiting for an opponent. Like, there is someone you want to talk to that actually wants to fight you.
It was at this point where we got a bunch of backstory drop that I realized I don't think he's shown that picture to anybody in the last 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, he never showed George the picture. They forgot that part.
Yeah. He matter of fact, he says I think he asks George, has he seen someone? But I don't think he shows him the actual picture, and I think it's just an animation gaffe. Because I think he asks someone at some point about it.
I don't remember the picture. Anyway, so they lock Rain in the bathroom because crimes, I guess, is better than...
Yeah. Because Domon is down for crime.
And the thing is, as soon as that happened, like, there's this little... the weirdest thing, there's an automated closing window on the bathroom that Rain is, like, trying to fight to keep open to convince Domon not to... Which is, who automates that out of all of your bathroom functionality? But as soon as I saw that happening, I'm like... You're locking Rain, of all people, in the bathroom. Like, your top engineer, you think this is going to somehow stop her for 5 seconds. And I loved that the next scene they cut to was her being like, that idiot, he can lock me in the bathroom. I'm going to be out of here in 5 seconds.
Yeah, she's like...
Again, this is the continuity portion that I was talking about. Because when she gets locked in there, she still has the gloves in her breast pocket. Which is how she's able to get her stuff in so that she can undo the mechanic lock. And that made me very happy.
Is it too late for Rain to join Chippity Crockett's team?
I think Rain is asking herself the same question constantly.
Like, I mean, because, he dresses them up like bunny girls, but he actually cares about them. Like,
I suspect there was probably a long consideration process where she was balancing it, like, I gotta wear the costume, but I'd be respected, but I'd gotta wear the costume.
Yeah, like, and then she gets locked in a bathroom, and she's like, I definitely should have took the costume.
Yeah.
Like, God, it's just, and I get it. Like this is just him in their way, showing him being super focused on what he's trying to accomplish and trying to be the uber, badass Gundam fighter. And he's going to have that turn later on where he recognizes he needs her and all this other stuff.
Yeah, there's a whole long-running subplot of like what exactly Rain and Domon's feelings are, and it takes the whole series to get there. But it's like mostly them arguing.
Yes,
for like 50 episodes.
And it's not like the cute will they won't they bickering. Like it's Domon being a misogynistic pig and Rain being like, you do realize I fix your machine by myself.
I just want her to take over and to become the pilot.
I want her to be the pilot.
It is like 50 episodes of Rain being like, I have a gun. I could shoot him.
And I'm not half bad at this piloting thing. Like, oh gosh, like.
Yeah, so we get the fight at this point between the and this is where I realized there was color scheme problems because it's a lot of blue and white flashing around.
Right.
And they're going for a bit, and then actually speaking of Rain, we do get a little weird moment where George Descent. Did we talk about this yet? George Descent, Saint George. Yes. Like this is clearly a through line to Saint George who slayed the dragon, and kind of very knighty. But that's more of an English thing, so I think they just kind of, cribbed some notes there. But anyhow, she comes in, the princess comes in, she's tied to a tree, and she's like, rescue me, and he's like, yeah, I got better things to do. And then Rain comes in afterwards, and that's when George really gets kind of a hit in on Domon during the fight. And he delivers the line, you let a woman distract you? And I thought,
Yeah, that line sort of surprised me because the other reference with George Sand is that George Sand was a 19th century French novelist, but it is the male pseudonym of a female author.
Oh, yes, I've heard.
Lucille Aurore Dupin.
Yeah, I've heard of her work, yeah.
And that comes after the fact that the princess is screaming for him, and he somehow hears, even though they're miles away at this point.
And Rain drops some truth on her and is like, he's not going to pay attention to you. He's fighting right now.
He's doing the thing.
Although
my knight is doing everything for me. And somehow he hears this and goes like, she's right.
Like, I'm really not.
I do love the juxtaposition of him being like, she's absolutely correct. I do not care. And Domon's the one who's like, Rain! And then he gets hit. Like, I'm just like, oh, so now you pay her attention. Although Rain is flummoxed by a knot. Can we talk about
they make a couple of jokes about like Domon being very bad at this, bad at tying knots.
Yeah, and the best part is she's like, because when he was tying up the princess, she's like, ow, that hurts. It's so, you're doing it too tight. And he's like, look, this is the only way I can do it, okay? I can actually tie you to this tree.
Like, this is the only knot I know. Like, you could pretend to do it. It's like, well, nope, we're doing it this way.
Yeah, we're doing it live. And then Rain, when she's trying to do it, she's like, I can't get her undone. And Domon's like, yes, you can. Look at it.
I think they just should have gone like the King Alexander route and like chopped it.
Yeah, like, wait, are you telling me that compact of yours that has a bubble of protection that can stop Vulcan shots from a Gundam can't cut through some rope?
You don't have a pocket knife.
Gerber on her belt, yeah. There is a bit of an interesting turnaround, though, because at that point, George unleashes, like, the full power of Rose Bits versus the Eiffel Tower, frankly. But that brings it down, and then he has to maneuver himself to protect her, which kind of puts the lie to the rest of his conversation to some extent.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the whole thing they're going for is that he was protecting her because he did prevent her from being crushed by the Eiffel Tower. But also, he would have gotten
does that mean he loves her?
No, he would have gotten in a lot of trouble if the princess died.
Yeah.
Although he tries to be manly, because Domon's like, oh, now you're running away? No, you idiot. He's trying to protect his charge and
also your mechanic.
And George then goes, a knight never shows his back. And I'm like, you ran away earlier and definitely showed your back to him when you didn't fight him earlier.
We refused the challenge. That's different.
Like, although, is this is the third time Mobile Gundam's arms are broken? Because Chibity's arms get broken, or arm gets broken. Domon's arm gets broken earlier because of the rose bit, and then both of George's arms get broken like a skateboarder who beefs it and falls off the height and goes palms first.
I'm not sure it's that the arms are broken, it's that the arms are literally holding all of the Eiffel Tower.
Like,
yeah,
they are occupied.
I feel like this is why we saw that Eiffel Tower on the floating satellite space station, because this one must have been destroyed or damaged in whatever World War III happened.
Okay, but
it was melted.
The angle that it was at, there's like structurally, it would require so much more effort to keep it upright like that than it would be to actually like have the Eiffel Tower like it is. Like you would have to go anyway.
Like we do see replicas of all these monuments that Domon keeps destroying on the the space colonies. So like, there is like a Statue of Liberty on Neo America's space colony, which makes up for the one that he bursts out of like it's freaking Planet of the Apes.
Listen,
in that episode. And there is like in Neo France, there is another Eiffel Tower in space.
Listen,
a Neo Eiffel Tower, if you will.
They just keep taking the ones from Vegas. Like Vegas didn't need them. Neo Vegas didn't need their mini statues, and
yes,
it helps keep the cultural identity of these space stations.
So to address my own question from last episode, there is no way I could have laid a bet on the notion that the writers would use a small child being crushed to death by the Eiffel Tower as the reason that they would not be able to complete the fight or have everybody murdered. Because like they come to a standstill and then it's basically obvious that Domon's going to win because the other guy's holding the Eiffel Tower. And then there's a moment where it looks like he's going to fire at his head, and then they cut away because that's what they do.
Yes, and then we cut away to them having coffee together the next morning.
Although I do kind of like the little gag we have here, because Domon's like, how'd you know it wasn't real? And he's like an idiot like you wouldn't have master. Oh,
the other part that we skipped is that the princess left a note at the cafe saying that Domon had kidnapped her. So she was already like planning on faking this kidnapping. So like,
well, no, she left a note in her bedroom,
and there was the note on the mirror, and then they said that there was also a note in the cafe because the waiter shows up in Neo France in the capital, being like, "I found this note, I guess."
Right, okay.
Even though I saw that whole fight where she got rescued and then, I guess, kidnapped by another guy.
She definitely left with the guy she said kidnapped her in this letter.
Yeah, but I got 100 franc tip, so
yeah.
I also love the fact that George's reasoning is that Domon's too dumb to write in French.
Domon French could not possibly be that good.
Yeah, it's that it couldn't be that good.
Although I would, to be fair, if anyone in that crew knows French, it's Rain. Rain is the one that knows French.
Yeah.
She's translating for Domon easily.
Yeah. Like, I think if you said, like, any skill is required for any of these episodes, like, yeah, Rain knows how to do that. Like, Rain knows how to do everything. She's the skill monkey on this team.
She's his Q and his money penny all rolled into one.
Yes. Like, I hope there's a scene later where we need to see Rain, like, break into a safe.
I hope there's a scene where Rain pilots something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, let's be real, she deserves it. She deserves to be able to pilot and do one of these fights. Because, clearly, she's awesome.
I want to say, I do think at some point she does pilot.
There's a suit towards the end that she pilots, but it's complicated.
It's complicated. Okay.
It's funny because on the flip side, the last note that I have here is Domon is an asshole, and I don't remember the context of that. I just know it to be true. So I don't remember.
Oh, because it ends with Rain saying, like, if I
was-
was in danger, would you come save me?
Oh, that's
and,
right.
And Domon's saying, no.
Not-
And then let's go. We're going to Russia.
Yeah, Domon literally looks at her dead in the face and says, "Would you, if I was in trouble, would you save me like George did for the princess?" And he goes, "Well, no, because that was for a princess. Let's go to
princesses only.
Yeah. He says, you're not a prince. You're not a princess. So no. Anyway,
At this point, her request to transfer teams to Chippity Crockett's is on the desk.
Okay, so here's the question I have. We do have George, who is this character who is named after a famous novelist who was a woman who used a male pseudonym. And this is pulling a lot from Rosa Versailles. So it's never really addressed, but do you guys think that George is trans?
it's possible.
It wouldn't surprise me. Actually, by the way, that's something I think you guys would be into if you've not seen it, and I own all of it. I bought it when it was on it was super cheap. I bought the entire Rose of Versailles collection on DVD. It's a wonderful set to watch that. But I would not be surprised if George was trans or kind of pulling like a Utena or a Rose of Versailles, like. Which would explain why George is like, no, little girl, get away from me. Like,
well, because he's also the most androgynous of this group of Gundam fighters.
And
unlike
he
G
also
Gundam,
may
where
not-
everyone's sort of like teenaged and pretty.
He may not, he may not be interested in romance at all. Given
also
how
possibly.
and that's why I'm kind of just like, I want to shake this child and be like, leave him alone.
it would have actually been, it would have probably been really iconic because I think at this point, the only shows I would have known when this show came out that had a either trans character or a character who cross dresses would have been either Utena, Rose of Versailles. I don't think Chevalier de Leon had come out yet. Chevalier d'Eon. I don't think it had come out yet, which is actually based off a spy for the French government who was a guy, and he dressed as a woman and spent like 30 years of his life as a woman spy. He even infiltrated the Queen of Russia's court. And so I think if that was the case, I think George would have been the only one at that time. And I don't think we get an actual... Do we have an openly gay character in Gundam yet? Or do we get one in the future? I think it's suspected.
Other than Dorothy?
I think that Catra and Troa are canon at this point.
Yeah.
And there's the one pilot in Seed.
Yes. Oh, I forgot about him. And you're right. I do think that Catra and Troa are canon at this point. Although,
like they have adopted a child together in the sequel, in the weird ass sequel novel.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of awesome, actually.
Although they do reserve to themselves by their initials and train her to fight in a giant robot because cycles of abuse are complicated.
Listen.
I think in this period, there's so much inference and implication. It's so hard to know, but it's a very interesting question. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on George in future episodes.
Because this is like the shonen fighting show of the Gundam series, they all do get power-ups periodically throughout this series. And it's all in Dragon Ball Z fashion. Like, it's all in like, I'm going to charge up and unlike in Gundam Wing where they repair their robots and get an upgrade, like they get the 2.0 version of their robot. Like in this, it's more along the lines of like, I screamed long enough to where now I have enough power to defeat you.
Like, yeah, like when the Shuffle Alliance shows up, like that shit gets complicated.
But it becomes so cheesy in the most kung fu movie way possible. It's great.
Yes, it is beautiful. So does that bring us to favorite parts?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it does.
So mine was definitely George related specifically. There's a shot when they're on the balcony and George's hair is going one way and the Eiffel Tower is going the other way, and they're like a perfect match for each other, that angle and hang. And it's obviously meant to be like the animators had a moment where they're like symmetry. Beautiful. And I love it. That's my favorite moment right there.
Oh man.
Mine is also George related, and it's him piloting his freaking suit from the shoulder. It's the best. And also, in comparison to the painful constipation of a transformation that Domon has, his is just like, flex, all right, let's do this.
Yes, I do think that was very cool.
Yes, when he makes it quite serious.
Yeah, my favorite moment was definitely like that tease we got of the Japanese command team, including General Ulube, who is a weird masked sinister guy who's certainly not sinister. But like, we do have the short scene where Rain's like, we have orders from General Ulube and we have intel on the Bolt Gundam, and Domon's just like, well, just because it came from that guy doesn't mean he's right.
Also, a dick this episode.
And also, Rain picks that up through secret transmissions after Domon smashed the TV.
Yeah.
She's watching the fractured screen going, wait, that's our boss's...
No, okay, at first I thought that was pretty impressive, but let's be honest about it. He walked out of that apartment or whatever. Rain had that thing fixed in 30 seconds. She's probably got 50 of those tubes in the back room. No, she smashes them all the time. Just hot swaps them and off she goes. Like,
But to your point, Jurd, he's an asshole, but he's always been an asshole throughout this.
He's consistent.
He's consistent.
He's definitely an asshole in shonen anime protagonist ways.
But like right now, he's at the protagonist point where he's the first protagonist that I really just want to do terrible things to him for the fact that it would cause him pain.
I kind of wanted to do terrible things to Shiro.
Nah.
I don't think you can cause Hiro Yui pain, though.
He'll listen, as long as he's got a wrench, he'll be fine.
He'll come to your house with a gun and ask you to shoot him. Like, that's fine.
To apologize for when he did something horrible.
Jason, did we get your favorite part?
Mine has to be the fact that Rain literally was like, the moment when she gets herself out of this bathroom because this idiot forgot that she's a mechanic. Like, I just think it was a really great scene because so far we've seen how dependable she is for Domon. Like, he would be screwed without Rain. Like, his robot would be falling apart. It would be covered in holes and just it would literally be like the giant warriors from Nausicaa Valley of the Wind when they were hatched too early and they were just like slowly melting and falling apart. Like, that would be the Shining Gundam, because he doesn't show any technical know-how.
I have this headcanon that in reality there's been like 20 Domons, and that Rain is always just like, no, I'll fix the mech, everything's fine. Oh yeah, you can treat me badly, that's fine. Because she just like, she knows this is basically an expendable unit that's going to get itself killed in 5 fights. So
you're going to die.
I gotta get this job done anyway, whatever. You're the 5th Domon I've dealt with this week or whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, like also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but his father is in like a cryo prison.
Yes.
I thought that was a coffin.
Eventually they showed that he is in fact in like a cryogenic coffin.
Which is why it's like that grayish color, like the
that is apparently covered in flowers, like it is a funeral. But
yeah, that's why I was confused. I'm like, okay.
But in this episode, she's like, "You want your father to stay like that forever?" And he's like, "Well, I guess they're gonna heal him back to life if he wins."
Like, listen, Rain does show a lot of spine and some anger in those scenes, because she literally looks at Domon like, what is wrong with you, you idiot? Like, you're doing this because your dad is stuck like that. Like, we need to fix that. Like, why are you being this way?
Work with the system for once. Stop making my life harder.
Listen, he has to do it the hard way. Even though he has an open invitation to fight an individual he needs to get information from with no one in his way, he refuses because he needs to commit crimes.
Did anybody else notice that he did not ask George about the picture?
Yeah, well, I was about to say, just as we close out, I hope that 3 or 4 episodes from now it comes back to bite him and be like, shit, if I just asked George about the picture, we would have had this series over already.
Yeah, and also, what happened to did the crab spider come back to actually fight and get its head crushed?
Well, Domon shot him in the head, so he's disqualified. But he's still around when we get to the end of the series, where we see the big group shot of all the Gundams.
Oh.
So to clarify, he shot the Gundam in the head, not the actual dude.
Yeah, because the dude's in the torso section.
Right.
So he was fine, but his Gundam is disqualified. So he is done fighting.
I wouldn't put it past Domon to kill someone point blank, but at this point, I just feel honestly, I think it would be Rain. I think she would summon her inner Lady Une and be like, Domon, and just pop him in the back of the head,
Mm-hmm. And then kick him out of an airplane.
Yeah, because at this point, the most reliable person on Domon's team is Rain.
Yes, Rain is holding everything together in spite of all of Domon's bad ideas egged on by 12-year-olds.
I predict that's how this series is going to end. Rain is going to put on some glasses, take out a gun, shoot Domon, and then kick him out of an airplane, or kick him out of the mobile suit. As they go back into space to Neo-Japan.
This is a complicated Lady Une origin story.
Yeah,
I mean, this did come out before Gundam Wing. This would be amazing. And to hide from her crime, she dyes her hair and grows it out.
Yeah.
She puts on glasses, dyes her hair out. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. But unless anyone else has anything to add for this episode,
I'm good.
Yeah, we're good.
Join us next time when we'll be watching Mobile Fighter G Gundam Episode 5, Great Escape, a captive Gundam fighter.
Good God, that's long.
Yeah. Because apparently, Russia, he goes to Russia, and Russia's first instinct is to throw Domon in prison, which I say, good idea.
Thank you, Russia.
That is very pragmatic based on all the shit he's done in the last 4 countries he's visited.
Yes.
In Russia, fighter, capture you.
You've blown up a historical building in each of the countries you visited, so I'm just going to toss you in prison first.
And kidnapped a princess. Just, my God. He'll become likable at some point, right?
I doubt it. So, Hugh, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, you can find everything I do over at HughJO'Donnell.com.
You can find all my business over at Skinner.fm.
You can find everything I do at nerdswithvoices.com.
And I'm over at ResonantMoon.com.
Find all our show notes over at NostalgiaPilots.com and follow us on Twitter at NostalgiaPilots. So until next week, are you or are you not going to kidnap me?
Yes, and I will bring you to the Great North.
You let a podcast distract you?